How are you? Good.
All right, Madam Chair, I show 1 o'clock and we appear to have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I'd ask that you all take a moment with me to stand and consider Officer Jonah Hernandez, the LCPD officer that we lost this week in the line of duty. Please. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask if anyone, any committee member has a perceived conflict of interest with any item on the agenda. If so, please recuse yourself from voting on that item. Not seeing any initially, so thank you. Next up, we'll have public comment.
Madam Chair, I do believe we have someone who wants to give public comment.
Yes, please, come up. Remember to state your name for the record. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Douglas Brown. I'm a 47-year resident of Las Cruces, live in Tierra Verde down the road from the county building here. And I'm here today basically to get some direction and instruction. In those 47 years, this is the first opportunity I've ever had to meet before or discuss before this group. So forgive me from the ignorance that I possess about what the procedures are. What I'm here for is to begin the process as we see it to try and get a pedestrian crossing along Avenida de Mesilla at approximately the Tierra Verde intersection. The reason for this is, of course, obvious that the majority, if not all the residences, occupy the west side of the road, and many, if not all of the schools and businesses that are on the other side of the road are now blocked or largely blocked by the increased traffic along Avenida de Mesilla. We have many walkers in the neighborhood and people who cross with their children to go to the schools on the east side of Avenida de Mesilla. I cross regularly to go to the bank, and honestly, I swallow hard every time I face the traffic trying to get across, because there are no crosswalks anywhere along there from I-10 all the way down to Calle del Norte. And so this being approximately in the physical middle of that section would be an appropriate place to make it safe for people to cross the road for whatever purposes they have. That being said, I don't know what the process is or what I should be doing or we should be doing, since there's a number of us involved, unfortunately couldn't be here today, to try and get this project started. I've been told that independent coordination with the respective municipalities, Mesilla and Las Cruces, is probably appropriate. We've already had discussions with our city council representative, Johanna Bencomo, and we are in the process of discussing with the people that occupy both the businesses and other residential communities along Avenida de Mesilla to get their representation, and we hope their support. But what I'm here for today is to ask you, what guidance would you provide us in pursuing this project over the next however long it takes? And we recognize this is not a simple process to either start or to complete. So we're looking for a long-term commitment to do this.
Thank you. First, I'll just really quickly, typically we don't respond to public comments. That's not part of our thing. However, since you're asking kind of a specific question, and I have to acknowledge that I am not also 100%, I think it's probably on the borderline between the city and the
It's,
And the
well,
town-
Mencia's on one side and Las Cruces is on the other side of the street
so-
at that point.
I have to acknowledge my own ignorance about how this process would go, but if we can get your contact information, since you've already talked to Councilor Bencomo, we can, what the path is. I have to acknowledge that I haven't ever seen something like that happen originating here, but it's something that we would be happy to have more conversations with you all about, so.
I'd be happy to stay until the meeting is over to have whatever discussion is appropriate at that time.
Okay,
Chair,
yes, please.
Madam Chair,
Good morning.
Madam Chair, I'm Aaron Chavarria. I'm the District 1 engineer for the NMDOT. If it's on the west side within the city limits of Mesilla, New Mexico 28, that is our right-of-way.
Correct.
So we'll get your contact information and we'll get that process started.
Okay, I'll be happy to speak with you after the meeting. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Here's my business card if, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Extend this any longer than necessary, so as long
No.
as I've started, I'll be happy to sit down.
Thank you. You can sit down and we'll definitely follow up with
Thank
the subsequent conversation. Thank you for coming. Any other public comment? Thank you. Again, thank you for coming. I'm not sure if we have to do a roll call. I haven't done that if we do, but I
Sure, Madam Chair.
probably should do that. Sorry. I realize Commissioner Shajo Hernandez pointed it out, so thank you. I hope you
Mr.
can-
Chavarria, we're just calling the roll to establish quorum.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
here.
Commissioner Shajo Hernandez,
Here.
Councilor McClure,
Here.
Trustee Merrick,
Here.
Mayor Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
and Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We do have quorum.
Thank you. I glazed right over that. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Sanchez, I'll move approval.
It's
Second, Trustee Johnson Burek.
okay. Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Seeing none?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is on the motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Commissioner Shajo Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Trustee Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Next up, the approval of the minutes from the January 10th, 2024 meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve them.
So
So-
moved. Trustee Johnson Burek.
Second, Shalja Hernandez.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or notes on the minutes? Seeing none from my colleagues, please.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
This is on the motion to approve the minutes of the January meeting. Mr. Chavarria,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Commissioner Shajo Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilor McClure,
Yes.
Trustee Merrick,
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
All right. On to action items. Resolution 24-02, a resolution appointing a member to the BPAC. The BPAC, right?
BPAC, yes, Madam Chair.
The F is silent, I realize.
It's a very awkward acronym if you put it in there.
Please.
We need a motion.
Oh, I would,
Sorry. I move to approve Resolution 24-02, a resolution appointing a member to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Advisory Committee. Trustee Johnson Burek.
I second what she said, Shalja Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a vacancy on the BPAC currently. Ms. Erica Christensen, who previously served on the BPAC as our Doña County representative, tendered her resignation from the BPAC in December of last year. We had an open call for candidates for this position running from latter part of December, I don't remember the exact day, through January the 31st of this year. I will say that the Doña County position is a little difficult to fill because it has to be a representative from the unincorporated county. It can't be a resident of Mesilla or a resident of the city. So we're quite pleased that an eligible candidate put themselves forward in relatively short order. That candidate is Mr. Bustillos. Unfortunately, he notified me that due to work commitment, he was going to be unable, he's actually out of state right now. He would not be able to attend today, but you do have his letter of application in your packet that you can review, and the staff asks for the policy board to take action with regard to making his appointment to the BPAC.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is on the motion to appoint Mr. Bustillos as a member of the BPAC representing Doña County. District Engineer Chavarria?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek?
Yes.
Commissioner Shaja Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilor McClure?
Yes.
Trustee Merrick?
Yes.
Mayor Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next up, we move on to discussion items, starting with the MTP kickoff. So I look forward to hearing from you all.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would at this time like to introduce Mr. Dominic Loya.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Policy Board. So we're at that time of year again, the time in the 5-year process where we need to start the MTP again, and that's the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This meeting is going to mark the first public meeting for the MTP. So because the Mississippi Valley Metropolitan Planning Organizations exist to serve as a forum for regional transportation planning and decision-making in Doña County, the MPO also is here to maintain eligibility for federal projects and transportation funds. So these are the reasons why we have to have the MTP. As part of that, we have to establish a long-range vision for the MPO area, which enables the project development and completions. So some of those projects we've seen in the past include Valley Drive, the current one going on University Avenue, between NM 478 and NM 28 in between the city and the town. So these are just some of the projects that are because of we have an MTP. So basically, this is the core vision for the last MTP when we were here, which was approved in 2020. So it's to serve all transportation users by planning, implementing, and maintaining a transportation system that coordinates land use and transportation planning. So for this MTP, we are running on a little bit shorter schedule. That's partially due to across the state. There's a feeling that a 2-year process is too long. The original public engagement really doesn't have as much resonance in it. So in this case, we'll be running it over 18 months. There'll be 3 rounds of public participation. As I said, this meeting kind of kicks off the first part of that. All meetings of the MPO committees and board will be considered public meetings for this process. So we'll have 3 rounds. First one will be in March and April of this year. The second round will be September to November of this year. And then the final round will be next year, March to April. The TAC will have a work session on this at their next meet, or on their April 4th meeting. BPAC will have a work session on the April 16th meeting. So as I said before, this is kind of just the preliminaries. We haven't nailed down everything yet. We are in the process of doing that. All board and committee meetings are considered public meetings for this. We will be in the Vado del Cerro Community Center in the county on March 21st. We're taking this out to Las Cruces Farmers Market on March 30th. We will be in Radium Springs. I'm still working with the county on that to get the date nailed down. And then we will also have a presentation in the town of Mesilla. We were trying to get a hold of the rec center to be able to use that. So we will get those nailed down here in the next few days for this process. So these were all the Mobility 2045 goals. So as you can see, a lot of these are it's going to be broad overview goals for this stuff, just because of the type of plan it is for the next 20 to 25 years. So it will be, like I said, broad in its scope. And as I said, this is from Mobility 2045. The ultimate goal is to develop an integrated, well-functioning transportation network that effectively serves the needs of the residents of the MPO area. So as I said before, we're doing this process over the next 18 months. It must be adopted on by June 30th of 2025. That is within the JPA. For those of you who, the last time we adopted, we actually ended up having to go over a month because in 2020, well, as everybody knows, 2020 happened. So we ended up adopting in July that year, and we had to ask for an extension. So this year, this case, it must be adopted before June 30th of 2025. And for that, I will stand for any questions.
Any questions from you all? No? No? Hearing none. Any questions from the public? Seeing none. Thank you. We look forward to it. Assuming, knock on wood, no global pandemic, we'll get it done in time, I'm sure. I did knock on wood, though, just as a reminder to the world. All right, next up, we would like to hear the MPO Annual Safety Report, please.
Ms. Katerina Pervingia will be presenting this, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, committee. This is a summary of the MPO, Mesilla Valley MPO 2024 Annual Safety Report. Before I begin, I just wanted to note that since the packet was printed, there were some figures that had to be changed and corrected, and just slightly. I think it was like either by a count or two, or if it was the percentage, it was only changed by about like a tenth or so of a percentage. That was figure 3, MVMPO number of serious injuries, that's on page 12. Figure 11, MVMPO rate of serious injuries on page 19. Figure 35, timing of all serious injury involved crashes since 2015, that's on page 39. Figure 36, serious injury involved crashes by parts of the day, page 40. Figure 37, serious injury involved crashes by day, page 40. Figure 39, drug and alcohol involved serious injury crashes, page 42. Figure 40, two more, I promise. Figure 40, drug and alcohol involved serious injury crashes since 2015 on page 43. Figure 60, drug and alcohol involved non-motorized crashes since 2015, that's on page 56. So those were the ones that have changed since the printing, since we sent out the packet. Okay. So in the annual safety report, of course, we go over the 5 main numbers: the number of fatalities, the number of serious injuries, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, or as I'm going to say from now on, VMT, the rate of serious injuries per 100 million VMT, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Of course, we go over different aspects of those as well, but that's what we base it on. And these are all of the crashes. This is all the crash data from within the Mesilla Valley MPO planned area. So and that does not include all of Doña County. It's just within our jurisdiction, within our boundaries. So 2021 crash data overview. In total, there were 3,739 total crashes. 9,327 people were involved in those crashes, whether they were victims or involved in those crashes, because they do affect multiple people sometimes. There were a total of 57 crashes resulting in a serious injury. That's a Class A injury. 50, so those were the crashes. And then of those crashes, 59 serious injuries were actually reported. There were 11 fatal crashes, which resulted in 11 fatalities in the year 2021. And for non-vehicular crashes, there were a total of 76. Of those 76 non-vehicular crashes, there were 5 fatalities and 8 serious injuries. So the number of MPO, the number of fatalities within our area, in 2021, there were 11. So there was a drop from 2020 to 2021, actually from 2019 to 2021. The fatalities did decrease by 31.3% since since I reported this last year. The fatality rate, because the number of fatalities dropped, the rate of fatalities also dropped. This dropped by about 38.9% from 2020 to 2021, which is good. This is comparing our fatality rate with NMDOT's, with the state of New Mexico's fatality rate. We are now below in the fatality rate and the 5-year moving average compared to the states, which is good. Actually by about 39% below the state of New Mexico's. This one is looking at the timing of the fatalities. So looking at this is just throughout the year, all the fatalities that occurred on the days and then at the time, the hour that they occurred in. Looking at it, it looks like the majority of the fatalities occurred in the afternoon, early evening hours. And then looking at the days of the week, there seems to have been more concentrated on Monday to like at the beginning of the week, Monday, Tuesday specifically, compared to the rest, though it is consistent. It does occur regularly Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In this map, this figure, this is showing, so on the left, these are all of the fatalities or fatal crashes that occurred since 2015. So it's a summation of all the crashes from 2015, all the fatal crashes from 2015. And on the right is from 2021, just for a comparison. And looking at the trend, it looks like it kind of shifted where the concentration went from the end of the week to the beginning of the week compared to the usual trend where it looks like we have more that occur towards the end of the week, specifically Saturdays, or when these fatal crashes occurred. For the 2021 fatal crashes by parts of the day, more occurred in the afternoon between the hours of 12 and 5 than the morning and the evening. And there were no fatal crashes during the night from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Oh, sorry. Looking at the fatal crashes that occurred by the month, January, February, September, and December all had 2 occur in each month. The ones that did not have any were March, and then in the summer during June and July, and then October, November, there were no fatal crashes. This figure is looking at the holidays in 2021, looking at the fatalities. Labor Day had the most fatalities of all the holidays, so there were 4 fatal crashes that occurred during Labor Day holiday, and that was 3.5 days. 2 of those fatalities did involve alcohol, and then there was one Martin Luther King weekend, and so it's not just the day; it's the whole weekend. And when we look at it, so looking at fatal crashes and lighting, most happened during the daytime, so in broad daylight, which is concurrent with the increased volume of traffic during the day. There's more volume of traffic during the day than there is at night, in the evening, and in the morning. So then 27% of those occurred dark, not lit areas, and then 18% occurred in the dark, but there is some lighting areas. For hit and runs, there was only 1 hit and run involved in a fatal crash. Drug and alcohol-involved fatalities, there was a pretty decent increase in this. So there were 3 fatalities that involved alcohol, 3 fatalities involved drugs, and then 3 fatalities involved both drugs and alcohol. And there were 2 that did not involve either one. In this figure, we're looking at basically that same data, but it's spanned out over the past few years since 2015. Alcohol-involved crashes were basically hovering from around 30 to 40%. throughout the years. It is slowly dropping. However, the red line which is showing drug-involved fatalities, it is showing a sharp increase in trends. And then with both being involved, that also increased as well. So these are the where drugs and alcohol were involved in the fatal crashes. These are the serious injury crashes. So there was an increase by about 57% from 2020 to 2021. And because of that, the rate of serious injuries also increased as well. Looking at this, comparing to the state of New Mexico, it was about even with the state of New Mexico, but now it has increased. So now the rate of serious injuries per 100 million VMT is over the state's rate. This is looking at, so the same data, but now with serious injury crashes. It looks like there is a lull in the morning, but most of them occurring in the afternoon, early evening hours. Looking at the day, it seems like at the end of the week and Sunday, Monday is where, Sunday specifically was a bit more than the rest of the days of when these injuries, when serious injury crashes occurred. And then this is looking at the timing over the past several years since 2015. So 2015, it was, we had more serious injury crashes occurring during the day, kind of in the middle, and then same thing in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, it was a little more spread out, but then, and then there's 2020, but looking at 2021, it looks like it's starting to follow the previous trends from before. Serious injury crashes by part of the day, the majority of them occurred in the afternoon between 12 and 5 p.m., as we saw in the previous slide. There's 32.4% occurred in the evening between 5 and 9, and 23.6% occurred at night, and 3.8% in the morning. Looking at it by the month, November seemed to have the largest amount of serious injury crashes, followed by March of 2021. 2021 serious injury crashes and lighting, majority happened during the day, so in broad daylight, and then 18% occurred in dark but not lit areas. 16% occurred in dark but lit areas. There were 3 out of the 57 serious injury crashes that involved a hit and run, but the majority did not. Looking at drugs and alcohol involved in serious injury crashes, there weren't any drug involved crashes. It was only alcohol involved crashes, and there were 7 of them out of the 57. Looking at the lighting and fatalities and serious injuries. So on the map, you do see that we've mapped out with daylight crashes, and it does there's a lot of yellow representing broad daylight. But however, we took out the daylight, so we're only focusing on the ones that did not occur during the day. So these are in the evening. This is North Valley. We see that majority of them are in dark but not lit areas, and these are the ones that these are the crashes that do not occur during the day. So only focusing at night. And that's understandable. It is mostly rural area. There is not a lot of lighting out there. Looking at Picacho Hills, similar scenario. A lot of dark, not lit conditions did occur, along with some dark, but there was some lighting. And then maybe it's dark and there's unknown lighting, so lighting from somewhere else, but you don't know. Same thing, not a whole lot of lighting around there. This is on East Mesa, comparing with fatalities and serious injuries. A lot of, again, dark but not lit dark areas. There were some slightly lit areas. There were a couple at dawn and dusk as well. This is South Valley. And again, similar thing. So these are all the crashes that occurred at night, not during the day. A lot of basically not very well lit conditions of where where these crashes occurred, and then comparing it to these serious injuries and fatalities. And then this is basically central, so city of Las Cruces, so basically central Las Cruces and town of Mesilla. There is a lot more variability here because there is more lighting present in this area, but crashes still occur. But we still have present the dark, like not very well lit conditions present in these areas. So looking at non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, there was an increase in 2021, we went from 10 of 2020 to 13. And it did increase by 26%. Looking at the timing, it was interesting because looking at the day of the week, the non-motorized crashes occurred majority on Mondays. So there are 17 non-motorized crashes that occurred on Monday. And then looking at the time, majority of them occurred between 5 and 6 o'clock, so in the 5 o'clock hour. And again, looking at the time of the crashes, this is by the year. And so it almost follows the same trend, but it looks like it's more concentrated around the 5 o'clock hour. Looking at the parts of the day, majority of them occurred in the evening, as stated before. 38.2% of all non-motorized crashes occurred then. By the month, February and August did have the highest number of non-motorized crashes in 2021. We have February and August were the highest. 2021 non-motorized crashes and lighting. Again, the majority happened in daylight, even though they were in the evening, but it was still, it was still daylight present. And then second was dark, but some lighting conditions. And then third was dark, not well lit conditions. This map is showing basically the lighting and then the non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, only focusing on those. And if you look in the map, it does, it occurred, again, this is without the daylight. This one shows Picacho Hills, pedestrian pedal cyclists, and, oh yes, I forgot to take one up. We don't have any either. East Mesa, there was one, it was a pedestrian, and that one was along US 70. Okay. So that was the non-motorized. Now looking at all overall crashes that occurred in 2021. Majority happened during the day. Again, there's a higher volume of traffic during the day. More people are out, work, driving around, anything, trips basically, which makes sense. And because of more traffic, higher chance of a crash happening. Looking at this by the day and the month, it's interesting. It's at the beginning of the year, there are, for the average, if you look at the averages over here, there are less in the first half of the year, but then the second half of the year, it increases. October seemed to have the most, October on a Friday. It was 105 crashes occurred in October on a Friday in October. And yeah, the averages on the second half of the year were a lot higher than the first half. These are all the crashes. These are all the crashes that occurred during holidays. Not just, I know Super Bowl Sunday isn't a holiday, but basically listing days where most people tend to imbibe and have gatherings. So we have, let's see. So looking at the crashes per day, basically what this is we take the total crashes here and divide it by the number of days that the holidays are usually considered be going. And we have the crashes, so divide that, and now we have our crashes per day. Veterans Day had the highest, 26 crashes per day, just looking at it, because there were a total of 39 crashes that occurred on Veterans Day. And so, and then it's for only a day and a half, as we put, but still. Looking at this, second was Labor Day, and then third was President's Day. Looking at the alcohol-involved crashes, the highest was Labor Day. And then we have second was, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. So those were the top three with alcohol-involved crashes. And this one's a little hard to read. It is easier to see in the report. But basically what this is, it's all the crashes that occurred within our area, and it's showing broken down by, so we have fatalities, serious injuries, so Class A, Class B, Class C, possible injuries, no apparent injuries, and then the total over here. The majority of the crashes did occur, like I said, in broad daylight. Second was dark, but had some lighting. And then third was dark, not very well lit. This is looking at first harmful events. In the past, the reports used to have a top contributing factor. However, there was a change and they no longer do that. They no longer do that with the state because, well, basically what they would do is they have different contributors ranked in order. And like, let's say you have someone who's speeding and they're drunk. They have alcohol in their system. And then they crash. Well, now the top contributing factor, because alcohol ranks higher than the speeding, then that would be that would just go straight under alcohol-involved crash. But the speeding won't really get reported. So they got rid of that system, and then now we focus on the first harmful event. And so we have basically collision with an animal, collision with a fixed object, motor vehicle, other non-fixed object, collision with person, non-collision. So of the fatal crashes, the highest was collision with a person, and then we have, let's see, where is it? We have a non-collision, and it was 2 fatalities, both of them are rollovers, and then there were 2 of the fatalities, 2 collision with a fixed object, and 2 collision with another motor vehicle. With the injury crashes, any injury, majority were from collision with a motor vehicle. And then the property damage only crashes, again, collision with a motor vehicle. And so that seemed to be the most frequent first harmful event of all the crashes. This report is meant to look at crash trends and patterns should they be present. The state of New Mexico, the state and the Mesilla Valley MPO are committed to reduce fatalities and serious injuries. I will now stand for comments and questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation, and I always love this particular. The injury epidemiologist in me loves this. Just as a quick note to folks who are new, there's a reason that we get this data really years after. It's sort of complicated, and we try to influence that. But in case you have more questions, most of our member jurisdictions actually have the data sooner. It's just not processed in a fashion that allows us to hear about it. So that's why it's 2021. That's sort of my basic summary of in case you're wondering about why it's 3 years old at this time. So any questions from my colleagues?
Sure.
Please, Commissioner Sanchez.
Ms. Provengi, I just happen to be looking at the data for drug and alcohol-involved serious injury crashes.
Yes.
And I just happen to notice, I think because when I looked at the graph that you had provided, there was a huge jump in 2018, 2019. And, you know, I think when I look at this, and I'm wondering, there was a significant decrease going from 28, I think from the previous years prior to I guess from 2015 to 2018, there was a large number of crashes. And then all of a sudden, 2019, 2020, 2021, you had 38, 33, and 56 respectively. So then the effect essentially is, when you look at that starting in 2019 in particular, the percentages to me are skewed, particularly because when I'm looking at the number of drug and alcohol, when you have 11 alcohol, like I said, 2019 has 11, 2020, not number 9, they have 9 and 7. It's relatively in line with the previous years, but when you look at the percentage, because there's a significantly smaller population, it seems to indicate there's an increase. But I think when you look at the actual numbers of actual crashes that are alcohol involved and drug involved, it's maintaining the same trend that we've had year over year. So I guess my question is why I guess when we're looking at this, why do we have such a huge decrease in serious injury crashes? I mean, and that's a good thing that we have it, but it's such a dramatic decrease from, over 100, 200 in 2018, and all of a sudden you have 30 in 2019 and 2020. I'm assuming that might be related to, particularly in 2020, to COVID. But it just, I guess I don't understand. So I guess all of that to say 2 questions. Why do we have such a huge decrease in crashes? And 2, why do we use the percentages versus the absolute number?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, we wanted to see of all the serious injury crashes, just see what it would look like with alcohol being involved in only the serious injury crashes. Because what we do is we group them, we separate them out where it's fatality data only, then serious injury data only. It seemed like it would just be, of all the serious injuries, how frequent does alcohol play a part, or is it involved in those kinds of crashes? It was just a way of looking at it. Although in the future, we can do another one where we look at the total crashes out of it. It does, but with the huge decrease, looking over here at the bottom of the chart, in 2020 there were 33 serious injury crashes. In 2021, there were 50. Sorry, that should be 57. But it says, based on here it says 56. There were 56 serious injury crashes. So there was a higher number of serious injury crashes, but the percentage of the total crashes, there were 12.5% of the total serious injury crashes that involved alcohol.
Correct. No, and I get that, I guess, but when you look at 2018, that had 236. 2017 had 91, 2016, 97, 2015 had 108. When you go to 38 and 33 and even 56, I mean, that's a significant decrease. And so I don't know if there was a change in what was categorized as a serious injury, or did we just literally have that many fewer serious crashes?
We had that many fewer.
I would argue that this is, like, there are so many confounding variables. Like, for instance, did more people get new cars that are safer, that prevent serious injuries in those years? Arguably, those types of variables, which aren't represented in this, could have I would say have an outsized thing. And also, if I can go back to my prior comment about not having a global pandemic, this would suggest we should bring it back, just as a note, as a preventive note. But I would attribute that to some other confounding variable that isn't part of either of these things, if I were like being asked this question on a public health quiz.
Yeah, and that's why I was just wondering. I didn't know if it was just something that stuck out that would drive that, or because I agree. I think there's a whole mess of factors. I just didn't know if there was something obvious that I was missing in there. And I think the only reason why I bring up the absolute data is because I think when you bring up the heat maps and we see, by time of day, and whether they're lighted or not. Like I said, I think it's interesting to see when you have that heat map to see when they're happening, and you're looking at the absolute values versus a percentage. And I think sometimes, we want to have lower percentages, obviously. I think sometimes it can be deceiving when you see that jump in numbers versus the absolute. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McClure, please.
Thank you for your presentation. Super interesting. I was curious, just because I'm super new, how does the data sort of inform action? Are different agencies using this? Are there public awareness campaigns that kind of go out on a Labor Day or tell people that Wednesdays might be a good day? Just curious.
Actually, I'd like to relay that to Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Councilman LaClure. This is Andrew Ray for the record. As far as what MPO staff is able to do with the data, presentation of the data here in this forum and to our member jurisdictions and making it available to the public really is about the limit of what we are able to do. As far as what the jurisdictions use when they receive this data, I trust that they do take it in under consideration and review the annual safety report when they receive it. But that's an unverifiable by me as far as that goes. Yes, Counselor.
Which agencies receive?
Specifically, the jurisdictions that own and operate transportation infrastructure. So that would be NMDOT, City of Las Cruces, Doña County, and the town of Mesilla. But there is another confounding factor, to use the chair's terminology, and it goes back to the other thing that the chair referenced in her initial comments with regard to the 2 years in arrears that we received the data, in that obviously planning for projects is forward-thinking, it's forward-looking, and so that there may have been projects, safety projects, and we have had this happen, where safety projects have been constructed and implemented on the ground, but it then takes 2 years for us to have a data sample to be able to look at that information. So not only is there a lag time as far as us receiving the data, then there is a consequent lag time in our ability to evaluate the efficacy of safety projects as they are implemented. So it's complicated, basically.
Are you good?
I would just venture to say that I think being proactive to say, hey, maybe some of these agencies could use this for public awareness specifically, even just for social media to say, hey, Labor Day, have you considered that there might be more alcohol-fueled crashes happening on days like this? Just would be, as my background, that would be helpful to at least have that kind of content.
Well, that's certainly something that the jurisdictions who receive the data could certainly take that under advisement.
Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you. Other questions? I will start a Bring Back the Global Pandemic campaign. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Madam Chair,
only
I do have to say on that, we did not see a reduction in fatalities. Serious injuries, yes, but fatalities, no. So it did not have, because we all were expecting, when the data started coming out from 2020, we were all expecting to see a reduction in fatalities proportional to the reduction in VMT, and that just simply did not happen. The absolute number of fatalities remained level, or broadly level. I mean, there was some small reduction, but broadly speaking, it really did not have an impact on fatalities. So there's a caveat on the desirability of another pandemic for a traffic safety standpoint.
I hear Alaska pox is coming our way, right? Have you heard that? Sorry, just speaking of. Okay, thank you, Kat. This is a great presentation. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you very much. It's one of my favorite presentations. of the
Actually,
year.
Madam Chair, one last thing. We will email out the updated version of this presentation with the amended tables after today's meeting. And after today's meeting, the safety report will be available on the MPO website for all and sundry to view.
It already is.
Oh, I've been told that they already put it up. Well done, Kat.
It's there. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Law, please come on up. Next up, we'll hear about the call for projects for the Transportation Project Fund. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, members of the Policy Board. So we did receive over the last month the Transportation Project Fund call for projects. So this is a state fund. This will just be a basic presentation over what they're looking for. The types of eligible projects are the environmental and other studies, planning, design, construction, and acquisition of rights-of-way for transportation and infrastructure. NMDOT has informed us, though, that they are looking for more construction-style projects than some of the other ones. For this, you will, and this has been sent out to all the jurisdictions. All the members on the TAC have received this. So for this, the cover letter will be needed with an overview of the project. If there's an intent to apply for a hardship waiver, how long the project's going to run, verification of funding to complete the said project, the project category, is it locally owned and does not include federal funds, and then is it NMDOT owned or an NHS route, which is National Highway System. What type of projects it's going to be. There's a project feasibility form, a resolution of sponsorship from the governing body. So the match on this is only 5%. They want a map of the location and then a letter of support if there are other owners of the project, the rights way for the project. So if somebody's looking to do a project in NMDOT's rights of way, they would need a letter of support from NMDOT. So this is going to be a fairly compressed timeline. And in that matter, we did have to remove the first review for policy board so that we could give jurisdictions as much time as possible to be able to bring forward good projects. So they will be, projects will be due by close of business on April 5th, which is a Friday. Then we will have a project feasibility meeting with NMDOT on April 12th. For all the projects we received, that's already set up with them. So they will review them, they will give their thoughts on those projects, how to improve them, if they're feasible, if they need to be cut down, depending on the amount of funding that it's going to be. So far, all we've heard on that is the base 40 million. I don't know if NMDOT has any more information on that at this point, but the original, every time that they did this, the original amount was $40 million at a minimum. So then we will have the BPAC presentation on April 16th, so they can give their recommendations on it. Then May 2nd will be the TAC, and then Wednesday, May 8th will be a policy board action item for these projects. And then by the end of May, it will be submitted to NMDOT, depending on any type of corrections and stuff that need to be made. And I will now stand for any comments or questions.
Any comments from my colleagues? Nope. Seeing none. Any from the public? Seeing none. Thank you. From what I'm hearing you saying, you're saying shovel ready without saying that even because it's a cliche, right?
That's basically what we've been told.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have actually put in for design things, so arguably those design things might be coming up for construction at the moment.
Madam Chair, this is Andrew Ray. Yes, that is correct, but it was a little more clearly than it had been in previous years emphasized to us that the DOT really is looking for construction as opposed to planning and design. Now, that does not mean, I don't want anybody to misquote me, that I'm saying that those are excluded. But there is more of, I think, an obvious emphasis on the part of the DOT. And I mean, Mr. Chavarria is here and he can also speak to it as well, but that's what staff is hearing from DOT about TPF this year.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, yeah, Mr. Ray is absolutely correct. We're looking, the concept is to try and spend money sooner rather than later. You know, the planning and design process, it takes time, and the money just tends to sit there for a while, even though it is being used up, but it doesn't seem like it. So the concept is to try and use the money as soon as possible.
Thank you. So we can carry that back to our member jurisdictions and if we have conversations with them. So, any other inputs? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next up, MPO board updates. I look to my colleagues. Anyone have any particular inputs? No? Seeing none? All right. Mr. Chavarria, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, NMDOT updates. We started a Main Street project, US 70. It's underway. in my opinion, is going pretty good. Traffic, most traffic seems to be finding alternate routes, so it's been good for us so far. Hopefully it stays that way. In April, we have on the east side of the interstate, the East Mesa, we do have a US 70 resurfacing project. That'll start in April, just to add a little more havoc to Main Street and US 70. Our university project between New Mexico 478 and New Mexico 28, we do have a low bidder. It's been awarded. We don't have a start date on it yet, but it is a 16 to an 18-month project. And then lastly, our I-25 capacity study that goes from Loman to Doña Ana, and it includes Thorpe Road. We do have a public meeting on that on February 28th at 6 p.m. It'll be at Doña Ana Elementary. And that concludes DOT updates.
Thank you. Really quickly, the east side of 70, what are the mile markers or exits that's going to be between?
Yeah, it's roughly from milepost 151, which is roughly Del Reyes to NASA, to Oregon.
Okay, the whole length. Okay, thank you. Any questions do you all have? Seeing none, thank you. Please, Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Andrew Ray for the record. I'm pleased to be able to inform the board that the City of Las Cruces has given us their offer for fiscal agent fee for our future services rendered after our administrative separation from the City of Las Cruces. We have an executive committee meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, the 21st, where the executive committee is going to review that offer and discuss our response to it. It's probably not appropriate for me to go into any more detail here on the record than that, but I certainly do hope to be able to update the board in more detail about this at our next meeting. And with regard to our next meeting, I want to inform the board that we are going to cancel the March meeting for this year. That March meeting was a special meeting contingent on us receiving RTP applications from our member jurisdictions. To consider. We did not receive any RTP applications this year, and so we will cancel the March meeting. So the next meeting, and I should have had this in front of me, it's April, whatever the second Wednesday of April is. I don't have that date in front of me, but we had no meeting in March. We will be sending out a cancellation notice for that March meeting either later on this afternoon or tomorrow, and the next meeting will be the April Policy Board meeting. And I believe April 10th, I'm being told. Thank you. And I believe that is everything that I have to update the board on today. So does anyone have any questions? I'm seeing bright smiles about the prospect of no March meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We do have another opportunity for public comment here, if there is any additional public comment. No? Hearing and seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Sanchez.
Second, Hernandez.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Please, to adjourn.
Madam Chair, we usually do that by fiat once it's moved and
Okay,
seconded.
you vote with your feet then. Thank you. We are adjourned.